Everyone talks about screen time like it's a simple problem with a simple fix. Put the phone down, set a timer, touch grass. And that advice gets thrown around constantly in articles, in TED Talks, in your mom's texts. But nobody talks about the specific kind of person who scrolls for hours and then sits there afterward feeling hollowed out. Not tired, not satisfied, just empty. Like they consumed something that left them more hungry than before. And here's what nobody tells you: the emptiness isn't a side effect, it's the whole point. Picture this: it's 2012, you're 11 years old, you've just been handed a tablet for the first time. Or maybe it's your older sibling's iPod Touch. The internet is no longer something you visit, it's something you carry. And here's what nobody prepared you for: boredom, real, quiet, sitting alone with your thoughts. Boredom is now optional. Every moment of discomfort has an escape hatch in your pocket. A study published in the Journal of Developmental Psychology in 2019 found that adolescents with high early device exposure showed a roughly 34% reduction in distress tolerance compared to peers with low exposure. Distress tolerance. That's the capacity to sit with uncomfortable feelings without immediately reacting to them. That capacity, it gets built in boredom. And boredom was being quietly engineered out of an entire generation before they were old enough to notice what they were losing. The environment built a nervous system that never fully learned to be still. Here's the first wound. The promise was connection. That's what every platform sold. Every app, every notification badge, every red dot, all of it whispered, someone out there cares, come see. And sometimes someone did. A like, a comment, a reply at 2 in the morning from a person who understood you. But here's what was actually happening underneath. The feed was engineered to never fully satisfy. Variable reward loops, the same psychological mechanism that keeps people pulling slot machine levers, were built directly into the design. You never knew if the next scroll would give you something meaningful or nothing at all. And that uncertainty is precisely what keeps you scrolling. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement, but you just call it one more scroll. And here's the thing: the wound isn't that the platform failed to deliver. The wound is that it delivered just enough, just often enough to keep you believing it might. The brain got trained to chase a feeling it almost never fully caught. Now, every time you stop scrolling without finding that thing, whatever the thing is, it registers as a small, quiet failure. That's what the emptiness is, not boredom, not wasted time. It's the residue of an itch that was never quite scratched. From the outside, people who do this look passive, lazy even, just lying there on the couch, thumb moving, eyes half glazed. But that reading completely misses what's actually happening. They're not scrolling because they have nothing better to do. They're scrolling because stopping feels worse than continuing. Stopping means confronting the quiet, and the quiet has never been neutral. It used to be fine before it became the thing the feed replaced. Previous generations knew boredom the way you know weather. Unavoidable, sometimes unpleasant, something you just moved through. Saturday morning with nothing on TV. A car ride with no music. Waiting rooms with no phone. They built up a tolerance, almost a comfort, with the state of just being. This generation had boredom removed before the tolerance was ever formed. So now, the absence of stimulation doesn't feel like peace. It feels like something is wrong. But here's what's fascinating. The people who scroll for hours and feel empty afterward are often among the most self-aware humans in the room. They know. That's the paradox. They know exactly what they're doing while they're doing it. They can articulate the emptiness in real time. I've been on this for an hour and I feel worse, and keep scrolling anyway. That gap between knowing and stopping, that's not stupidity. That's a broken feedback loop. The knowledge is real, the awareness is real, the neural pathway connecting that awareness to a different behavior, that's the part that never got properly built. And buried in that paradox is a genuine strength. These are people who are extraordinarily capable of naming what's wrong with themselves. They grew up in a culture that made self-examination almost compulsory, therapy language, mental health discourse, personality frameworks, and they absorbed all of it. They can diagnose their own patterns with clinical precision. The strength is a sensitivity. The paradox is that sensitivity is also exactly what makes the feed so effective on them. They feel the pull more acutely. They register each small hit of stimulation more intensely. The same nervous system that makes them perceptive also makes them more susceptible. They're simultaneously the most self-aware and the most captured. They don't trust the platform. That matters. These are people who watched the Facebook whistleblower testimony as teenagers, who saw the internal Instagram research leak showing the platform knew it was damaging teenage girls and kept going anyway, who sat through congressional hearings where senators asked Mark Zuckerberg if he knew what Finsta meant. They were the test subjects. Nobody asked their permission, so they have a particular relationship with digital systems. They respect authenticity. They hate polish that smells like manipulation. They can spot a manufactured moment from across a room. And yet, and this is the part that stings, they keep using the platforms because the alternative is a kind of social exile that doesn't feel optional. They've learned to navigate systems they fundamentally don't trust. They comply without believing. They participate without endorsing. And that split, performing engagement while feeling contempt for the machine producing it, is its own quiet, exhausting weight. The second wound is this: they're not looking for content. They're looking for feeling. A study in computers and human behavior from 2021 found that passive scrolling, consuming without interacting, was correlated with increased emotional numbness in adults aged 18 to 34. Numbness, not sadness, not anxiety. Numbness, because what they're really searching for every time they open the app is a moment that actually lands. Something that makes them feel genuinely moved, genuinely seen, genuinely connected to something real. And instead they get optimized content, engineered to hold attention without ever fully delivering meaning. What looks like laziness from the outside is actually chronic emotional hunger. They're grazing through a buffet that's designed to taste just good enough to keep eating and never good enough to feel satisfied. It bleeds into relationships. They can mistake stimulation for intimacy, a fast, funny text thread for actual closeness, a late night FaceTime scroll for the feeling of being truly known. The quiet irony is devastating. The most connected generation in human history is running on empty, wondering why presence feels so hard to find. Here's what they observe about the world around them now. Everyone building a personal brand. Nobody building a self. Carefully curated feeds and optimized thumbnails and the performance of a life. All of it pointing outward. All of it for an audience. And somewhere underneath that performance, they can feel what's missing. They just can't always name it. What they quietly worry about is whether real presence, the kind where you're fully in a room with another person, fully there, not half elsewhere, is becoming a skill that's fading. They've felt it slipping in themselves. They've watched it slip in the people they love. And here's the bittersweet part. They didn't choose this. They were handed a world mid-construction, one where the rules of attention were being rewritten in real time, and they adapted the only way anyone adapts, by surviving it. They gave their formative years to systems that were never designed with their flourishing in mind. Think of them as a tuning fork struck in a noisy room. A tuning fork is built to vibrate at a precise frequency, to register resonance with almost painful sensitivity. In a quiet room, it's extraordinary. In a noisy one, it rings and can't find its note. That's what's happening here. These are people built for depth, capable of resonance, searching for something real in an environment that keeps interrupting the signal. The sensitivity is not the problem. The noise is. And slowly, the act of putting down the phone, even just for an hour, even with the discomfort that follows, is how the note finds itself again. They don't seek recognition for this struggle. They don't post about it. They mostly sit with it alone in the quiet after the scroll, wondering why they feel this way. And maybe that, the willingness to keep asking that question, is the most defining thing about them. Sit with that for a moment. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, subscribe. There's more of it coming. And if you want to support the channel directly, the link is in the description. Either way, I'm glad you're here.